Hey guys, Caleb here from CDBS Studios, and this video is a little different to some of my other ones, as this video is a little bit more of a passion project kind of celebration video, as if you are watching this video on the day it's coming out, which is February 15th, today is actually my birthday, so happy birthday to me, I guess. And I thought it'd be interesting to do a video where I'm gonna go through every year that I've ever been alive on this planet, and I'm gonna pick my favorite movie from every year, from every one of my years. Now, obviously, of course, this doesn't mean that I saw this movie in the year. It's based on release dates, and this video is just something I want to do that's fun, as there's a lot of movies that I'm going to get to talk about doing this kind of video that I'm not going to get to talk about pretty much anywhere else. So I thought this would be a fun little celebration video for my birthday, and I'm going to say, like, the criteria going off this is that for each of the years, I'm going to name a couple honorable mentions or options of movies I really loved from these different years, and then I'm going to pick which one is my favorite. And overall, I'm not saying for each one of these picks that this is the best movie of the year. There are probably better movies in that year, but I'm going to pick what my favorite movie is based on personal preference, the movies that I just love. And I thought this would be a very fun video, so we're going to start this video all the way in 2006, and we're going to go up all the way to 2025. So without further ado, let's jump into this kind of birthday celebration and go through what my favorite movie is from every year that I have been alive. Alrighty, so starting off our video, we are going back to the glorious year of 2006, and we have a couple different options for movies from this year that I do actually really enjoy. First pick that is an option is this movie called The Prestige. This is one of my favorite Christopher Nolan movies, as it's a really fun movie about rivalry magicians played by Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. So very fun movie that I do think is great and one of my favorite movies. The next option we have here is Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest, which is one of my favorite movies in the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. I mean, there's only 5 of them, but I do really enjoy this movie, and I kind of go back and forth on whether this one is one of my favorites or the first one, so it's definitely up there as an option. And then one of the funnier picks that I kind of have for this kind of list is High School Musical. Now, I grew up as a Disney Channel kid, so of course I loved High School Musical growing up, and I've even starred in the stage play of this before, so I've definitely had a lot of experience with High School Musical, but I think due to the fact that I've done the stage play and they do make some changes for the stage play, I think High School Musical can't be one of the picks, so that one gets knocked out. And then we have my next pick, which is Cars. And I'm one of the only people, I think, on this planet that thinks this movie's good. If you saw my Pixar ranking a couple years ago, then you know that I think this is my second favorite Pixar movie. So, like, Cars is definitely an option I love up here. So between these 4 different options, I think the winner for 2026 is going to go to Cars. Now, for how much I love Pirates of the Caribbean and The Prestige, I definitely watch Cars way more than any of those other 3 movies I already mentioned. And I think Cars, this might be a hot take, is better than these other movies. So I think Cars is going to take the winner as my favorite movie from 2026. Moving into 2027, we have a couple different options here that are all pretty solid. First up on the list is we have Meet the Robinsons, which is my second favorite Disney animated film. I love this movie. Fun little time travel story, great messages, and overall just a really fun, wacky movie that, again, is the one I watch a lot. Next up option, we have Ratatouille, which released this year, which was, again, one of the best animated movies ever to come out. It's a lot of fun, but many of you might know from my Pixar video, I'm not the hugest fan of Ratatouille. It might be critically the best Pixar movie alongside another movie we're going to potentially talk alongside The Incredibles, but at the same time, it's not going to be up there. Next up, we have the next Pirates of the Caribbean that gets to be included in this list, which is Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End, which is a great movie, probably my second favorite Pirates movie. I just really love this movie, but it's just a great option. And then our next real option is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, which is one of the better Harry Potter movies. I will fight you on that point. So this is definitely an option. And then you have one of the other sleeper picks on this list, which is going to go to Into the Wild, which was a very fun little movie based on a book that I had to study like in 3 different grades and during my school years. So I definitely have a lot of connection to the story of this movie. And this movie does actually make some pretty good changes from the book that make me like it a little more than it. So when it comes to the list, which of these 5 movies is going to be the one that I pick? Well, knocking out someone's pretty easily. I think Harry Potter and Pirates are definitely some of the weakest in this tree in this 5 films, so I think those can get knocked out pretty easily. So amongst these next 3, I think my favorite of the 3 is going to be Into the Wild. Again, I studied the book on this like 4 separate times throughout my high school years, so of course I know a lot about this book, but I think the movie makes some very necessary changes that do actually make me prefer the movie to the book, which is great. And overall, this is a really, really solid movie that I can't help but love. So I think Into the Wild is going to take the trophy for my favorite movie from 2007. Next up, we have 2008, and this is definitely a smaller pool to pick from as there's only going to be 3 options here for me personally. And first option on the chopping block is going to be Kung Fu Panda. This is again my this is my 4th favorite DreamWorks movie. I think 4th or 5th. I forget where I placed it when I did that video. I just think Kung Fu Panda is a great movie that's funny, that's got some great life lessons, and of course overall great. And then you've got WALL-E as my next pick, which is a solid animated film that has so much to love about it, and many of you will actually know from the Pixar video that I do actually think this is my favorite Pixar film. So it does have the edge over that. And then, of course, we have to call out that 2008 also was when Iron Man released, which is the start of the MCU, which is basically one of my favorite film franchises, is my favorite film franchise, and this is where the MCU entirely started. So Iron Man definitely deserves to be on this list. But when it comes to the selection of 3, unfortunately, the other two of the options don't even stand a chance. WALL-E has to be the winner for 2008 because WALL-E is my favorite animated movie of all time. So the other 2 don't even stand a chance at going up against this film because, again, WALL-E's a movie that I can watch numerous times across multiple years and still find it amazing, even though I know exactly what's coming. So I think WALL-E is undeniably the winner for 2008 for my favorite movie of the year. Next up, we've got 2009, which has a lot of different options to select from here. First off, going into some of the animated movies that came out this year is, first off, we have Princess and the Frog, which is a Disney movie I do really enjoy. It's got a lot of enjoyable elements, and overall is a very fun movie. Dr. Facilier is one of my favorite Disney villains. The songs are good, but I think this movie is definitely worthy of being up here. Then you have Up, which released this year. Again, a great Pixar movie, my personal 3rd favorite Pixar movie. It's got a great story. I connect really well with Russell, being a former scout myself. And overall, this is a solid animated movie. And then you've got Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, which is one of my favorite animated movies. Again, the feature film debut of Lord and Miller. So, of course, you have a lot to enjoy there. The movie's funny, it's heartfelt, and it's really, really fun. Then we have also on the list, we have Avatar. Again, this is the one Avatar movie we're going to talk about because I'm not a huge fan of the other 2, but this is a fine enough movie that's got great 3D effects and overall a pretty fun little movie. And then we have kind of the sleeper pick of the entire group where we have The Wizards of Waverly Place, the movie. I grew up as a super fan of the Wizards of Waverly Place show, and this movie is one of my favorite pieces of media in the entire Wizards of Waverly Place franchise, so I did have to kind of include it because I just loved this movie a lot. And it's not great, it's basically just, the classic sitcom movie, but, it's a really fun little time if you're a super fan of the show like I am, so I do really love this movie. When it comes to the overall picks between these 5, there's a couple that I think we can knock out pretty easily. I think even though I wanted to include it to talk about it, I don't think Wizards of Waverly Place is in any of the same categories as the other 4 on this list. And in the same vein, Avatar definitely gets knocked out pretty easily, which brings us to the 3 animated movies. I promise when we get later in this list, I'm not just going to be picking animated movies. But between these 3, I think the best of this category is going to go to Up. So Up is the winner for my favorite movie of 2009. Even though I do really love the other two movies, I just think Up is so much better, and it is the winner for my favorite movie of 2009. So there you go. Next up, we have 2010, and this is where we start to get into some of the harder options, as I have a lot of different picks throughout this list. First off, we're going to get the animated movies out of the way because, of course, just the older movies, I've seen a lot of animated. Going on the list of the animated movies we first have How to Train Your Dragon, which, again, solid animated movie, my third favorite DreamWorks film, and a great one. Only just beaten by Megamind, which is my favorite DreamWorks film, and it's just a funny comedic romp that I love to watch. And then you have on the Disney side of things, we have Toy Story 3, solid ending to the Toy Story franchise, definitely in contention and many people's favorite Pixar movie. And then you've got Tangled, which is so much better than Frozen in every way. It's not even funny. So this one's definitely in the list. And then you have the two live action films I have this year. First up, we have Tron Legacy, which is a great movie that I really have found myself loving more and more as the years have gone on, delivering great score, great visuals, and an overall pretty good continuation of the original Tron movie, which I'm not the hugest fan of, but I think this movie's great. And then you've got Inception, which is one of the best movies I've ever seen, as it's got great, as Christopher Nolan really went all in on making a visual masterpiece of a film that I love every time I watch it. And when it comes to this pick of 6 different films, I mean, it's not even really a competition. Inception is the clear winner here. It is my second favorite movie of all time. So the other 5 in this category didn't even stand a chance. So unfortunately, Inception is going to take the crown for my favorite movie of 2010. I love this movie with every fiber of my being, and it just is that great of a film. 2011, we go down a little bit in the options as we go back to just 4 options for this year. The first up, we first have Kung Fu Panda 2, which is a great movie that I think improves a lot on what the first film had to offer, so it deserves to be in the conversation here. Then you've got Winnie the Pooh, which is the only other good Disney sequel besides Zootopia 2, so obviously is a great film. And then we have also another sleeper pick in here. We got Phineas and Ferb, the movie Across the Second Dimension. I am a super fan of Phineas and Ferb even to this very day, and this movie is one of my favorite pieces of the Phineas and Ferb franchise, so I had to include it here, much like how I included Wizards of Waverly Place earlier in this video. I love Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension. And then my other option for this year is we have Dolphin Tale. This is a movie that I found myself really, really loving, as it's really sweet little movie, and I've actually also been to the aquarium where they've actually filmed most of this movie and where the real story of the dolphin is based on. So I also have a little bit of nostalgia based on that fact alone. So when it comes to these 4 picks throughout the video, I think I'm gonna have to go with Dolphin Tale. I have a nostalgia to it. I have a lot of built up nostalgia for this film. There's a lot of great elements to this film, and of course I had to include it, so it gets to be here on the list, of course, as my winner for 2011. 2012 is when we start to get, again, really difficult with some of my picks. There's a lot of really great stuff in here. First off, this was the year that The Avengers released, which was the big culmination of Phase 1 of the MCU. One of my favorite MCU movies to this day. It's a great film that blends so many aspects of these characters, and it's such a great movie. Then I also have Rise of the Guardians, which is a good movie, and of all the DreamWorks movies that never got a sequel, this one hurts the most because it's one of their best, and I wish it got a sequel. Then you've also got Wreck-It Ralph, which was my favorite Disney animated film. Great little story, and it's one, again, that I could watch on repeat. And then we have our first comedy on the list. We have 21 Jump Street, which is one of my favorite comedies. I love it. Again, Phil Lord and Chris Miller know what they're doing when they make movies, and they are solid when it comes to the overall package. So when it comes to these 4, it was very difficult for me to have to pick between pretty much 4 peak movies, but in the end, I settled on Wreck-It Ralph. It is my favorite Disney animated movie, probably one of my favorite animated movies of all time. I love it, and even though the other 3 options are solid picks, I think Wreck-It Ralph is gonna take the cake for my favorite movie of 2012. 2013 was a very interesting year where there was a lot of weak movies going into it. There's definitely not a lot of very great options in here. The first one I'm going to bring up is another comedy, We're the Millers, which is a fun little comedy that I do really enjoy. And it's just one of those movies that's a guilty pleasure that I'll turn on when I need something to laugh at or get through a plane ride or something. So I enjoy this movie pretty heavily. Then we have the first documentary that made it into this list, which is Grounded, the making of The Last of Us. And The Last of Us is one of my favorite video games of all time. And this documentary just perfectly details why I love this game so much. And it more than deserves to be in this category. Then you have Now You See Me, which is one of my favorite franchises again. I love this first movie, and it's just so funny and fun for so many different reasons. And then you have another sleeper pick for this year where we have the Teen Beach movie, which again, I grew up as a Disney Channel kid, so of course I watched this movie, and I still love this movie to this very day. It's one of my favorite DCOMs. It's got a great soundtrack, a great story, and overall, it's one of those movies that I think is one of the better DCOMs because it's one of those movies that they make the premise be that they get stuck in an 80s movie, so you don't even question the bad CGI like you do for other DCOMs, which I think is just brilliant. But when it comes to the overall package of these four films, I think my favorite of the lot is going to go to Now You See Me. And I only recently got into the Now You See Me franchise, and already it's become one of my favorite things I've ever seen, even surpassing things like Grounded and Teen Beach, which were definitely in contention for this year before that. I just love this movie. Now You See Me is a great little romp, and if you've never had the chance to see it, I would recommend it because it is just a fun little movie to turn your brain off to. So, highly recommend it. And it's my winner for 2013. Going into 2014, we have another really stacked year of movies. First off, I have to call out the Lego Movie. Oh my, I love this thing to death. They literally took what could have been such a bad movie that's just a product placement for Lego and fleshed it out to create one of the best animated movies ever created. And the fact that it didn't get Oscar nomination hurts me still to this very day because it is so good. Going into some other things, we also have Guardians of the Galaxy, one of my favorite MCU movies. I love this movie to death, and it really is a movie that, again, could have been so bad, but they put so much love into it that makes me love it so much more. Staying in the superhero space for a little bit, we have X-Men Days of Future Past, which in my opinion is better than every single MCU movie, and I will fight you on that point because I love Days of Future Past so much. It's the best X-Men movie. It's so good that it's better than the whole MCU. I love this thing to death. It's so great. Then you have Penguins of Madagascar. Again, I grew up as a super fan of the Penguins of Madagascar TV show. The Penguins of Madagascar are like the only good thing to come out of the Madagascar films. And their movie, while it might not be the strongest when it comes to the story, it's just another film that's so fun to turn your brain off to and love. But I'm going to spoil a little early that all four of these films, for how great they are, can't stand up to the next film, which is the winner for 2014, which is Earth to Echo. I love this movie to death. And I know it's a film that a lot of people didn't love when it came out, but Earth to Echo is a film that I've constantly found myself loving, and it's my fourth favorite film of all time. It is a film that it resonates with me on such an emotional level. If you do know what the story is, it resonates me so well. It's a movie that they filmed in a sense where it's a kid making a YouTube video, so it's kind of in one of those indie quality films, which I love. The story is great, and overall, it's a film that I love to death. And every time I see it get re-added to Netflix every 3 years, it's a movie where I have to drop everything to rewatch it because, man, I love Earth to Echo so much. And even though it's not a popular movie, and maybe some of the other movies I already mentioned are better than it, but I will not deny that Earth to Echo is the winner for 2014 and is such a solid movie. 2015 is when we also get into another selection of very difficult movies to talk about and rank. First off, we have one of the greatest movies ever created, Mad Max Fury Road. Oh my, this movie is solid from beginning to end with pretty much nothing wrong with it, and most people that have watched it will tell you the exact same thing. It is a solid movie, and Mad Max Fury Road, honestly, I've started also respect a lot more ever since I've started to become a filmmaker and watch documentaries on how they made it and also learn the making of movies. I've started to love it a lot more. And then we have Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, one of the best action movies ever made. And this is also the last Mission Impossible movie I've ever watched. I've not actually gone on and watched Fallout and The Reckoning, so let me know, should I watch them and should they be included in the list later? But Mission Impossible Rogue Nation actually also holds a lot because this is the first movie that got me into Mission Impossible, as I kind of liked the other ones and thought they were fine, but mostly just bland spy films. But Mission Impossible Rogue Nation is the first Mission Impossible movie that made me like Mission Impossible. So, it has a lot of reckoning there. And then we also have Jurassic World, the only Jurassic film that I like outside of Jurassic Park, as this film took the greatness that was the original and gave it a spin into a very fun movie that I can't help but love. And this is also the film that really got me into Chris Pratt, even though I knew him from the Lego movie, but this was the first movie that really got me interested in him, so it also holds a lot of merit there. Then we also have a couple other animated movies on the list. We first have the Peanuts movie, which is the best Blue Sky movie in my opinion. It's a great movie that captures the wonder of the cartoons very well, and it definitely is in contention for this year being great. And then you've got Inside Out, a film that I personally connect to on so many levels, and it's one of those movies that you can't help but not love, and I think it's definitely in the conversation. But when it comes to these 5 films, I think my winner for 2015 is going to go to Mad Max Fury Road. For how much I love the other 4 films on the list, there are definitely instances where I can pick out problems or critiques I have for each of them. Mad Max Fury Road is one of those films that when I came out of my initial viewing of it, I had 0 notes on the whole film. And even now, going forward, I still have 0 notes on this film. This is just such a perfect movie, and it's gonna be the winner for 2015, even though I would love to gift it to one of these other films. But Mad Max Fury Road is gonna be the winner for 2015. Bringing us into 2016, we definitely had another pool of very difficult films to choose from around, where first off, we have Moana, one of the best Disney movies to come out of the 2010s. It is a solid film that you just can't help but love. It's a solid movie from beginning to end. And then you have another sleeper pick I have for the list, which is Middle School, the Worst Years of My Life. I just remember going to this movie on opening weekend with a bunch of my friends, and it was one of my favorite experiences. I still love most of this movie pretty much, and it's a solid movie that has a lot of enjoyable elements. Then, of course, you have my homie Deadpool. I have become a super fan of Deadpool, and this is this first movie. I love it, and you can very well tell that this movie was made on a lower budget, but that does not detract from it at all. And then my final honorable mention for the list is going to go to Rogue One. Oh man, this is my favorite Star Wars movie outside of the original trilogy, where it blends everything I wish Disney Star Wars was with making a great film that also still connects to the wider Star Wars universe in such memorable ways. I love Rogue One. And with the release of Andor, I think I love Rogue One even more. But when it comes to the list, which is the winner? I think I'm actually going to go with Middle School, the Worst Years of My Life for this one. This is just a movie that I've always had such nostalgia for, as I remember, again, going to it opening night with my friends, and I just remember falling in love with it. It's such a great film that teaches the value of creativity, which I like. It has a great plot twist in there that I won't dare spoil if you don't know what it is. And overall, this is a movie that, again, might not be the strongest story-wise, but it's a movie that I can't help but love every time it comes on my screen. So it's going to win my favorite movie of 2016. I'm definitely starting to notice as we get farther into the video that as we get farther more towards the present, I've seen a lot more films, so there definitely is a lot more picks to choose from, and 2017 is the first year where I genuinely had a very difficult time choosing which films we're going to go on. So first off, our first mention is going to go to Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. I've actually have the unpopular opinion that I actually like the modern Jumanji movies better than the Robin Williams one. This is just such a fun movie that takes kind of the concepts of the Jumanji game and develops them into this great comedy about people getting sucked into a video game and having to complete it. The comedy's great. It's a film that mainly stars celebrities, but each one of them is so good that I can't help but love it. Like, I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the few movies I actually like The Rock in, so that gets a lot of praise there, which is great. Then we have Coco, such a sweet animated movie. It's a film that you can't help but love, and it's honestly such a solid film from beginning to end. Next up, I have It, which is my second favorite horror film of all time. It just takes the things I love about the horror genre and blends them into such a solid film with a great cast and overall a solid film from beginning to end. And I think even just with Welcome to Derry last year, this just made me love it even more. Then I have The Greatest Showman, my favorite movie musical. It's just a solid film that has great casting, great songs, and overall a movie that I can't help but love, and I watch it almost on a semi-yearly basis. It is so good. And from one Hugh Jackman movie to the other, we have Logan, one of the shining gems of the Fox X-Men franchise that is such a powerful movie that you have to love, and it's such great. And then, one of my sleeper picks, I have the Lego Batman movie. I previously mentioned in my most anticipated movies of 2026 video that this was the last DC movie that I was really excited for, and it still holds to this is to this day still my favorite Batman movie, even as I've started to venture into things like the Dark Knight trilogy and of course The Batman by Matt Reeves. But I still love the Lego Batman movie as it's a movie that's equal parts funny and also heartfelt, so I can't help but love it. And picking my favorite of these six was so difficult, but in the end, I eventually landed on The Greatest Showman. This is just of this group of six solid 10 out of 10 and bordering on 8, 9 out of 10 films. Greatest Showman is that one film that I could watch every day of the year, and I still would love it. As it's so great, I sing those songs on almost a semi-daily basis, and Greatest Showman is just one of my favorite movies to come out in the 2010s, and so it has to win as my favorite movie of 2017, I mean. Then that brings us to 2018, which again was such a difficult year to choose from because we have so many bangers in this list that has to go out. First, I think we'll actually start with the sleeper picks this time around. First, we have the other documentary that's going to get mentioned in this video, which is Minding the Gap, which I've mentioned before. I'm not a huge documentary guy, but oh my, Minding the Gap is one of the most beautiful documentaries I've ever seen. And again, I'm not a documentary guy, so that should be telling you something if it's up here. And then I have Ready Player One, which is a good movie, and I will fight you on that fact. I love Ready Player One. It's not just nostalgia talking. I think it's a great movie that, yes, has its issues, but it is such a solid movie and deserves to be in the conversation for this year. And then we kind of have the hardest task of all, where we have three solid superhero movies to talk about, where first off, we have Deadpool 2, which is, I have the unpopular opinion again that I like Deadpool 2 more than I like Deadpool 1. I just think it's a funnier movie. It's got so many things I love, and it's overall great. But it also has to go up against the fact that 2018 had us release Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Avengers Infinity War. Like, these movies are some of the greatest superhero films to ever get created, and oh my, I can't help but love both of these films. So, when it comes to the overall list, what's the best movie of 2018? Not the best movie, sorry. What's my favorite movie of 2018? It's actually Ready Player One, believe it or not. I like Ready Player One more than I like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Avengers Infinity War and Deadpool 2. I just think Ready Player One is such a solid movie that I love to rewatch, and it's a great movie, and I will fight you on that point because I just love Ready Player One to death, and it's just a movie, again, that I could watch every day of the year and still find it amazing. So I think it has to win 2018, which is shocking because it's going up against, honestly, some solid competition. So that should honestly tell you how much praise I give this movie. 2019 is another year where we have to go up against the fact that there's a lot of movies that are solid from this year. First off, getting some of the obvious ones out of the way, we of course have Avengers Endgame, the culmination of 10 years worth of storytelling in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a movie that is so great that you can't help but love it. Then, of course, I also have Jumanji: The Next Level, which takes pretty much everything I love about Welcome to the Jungle and evolves it in a natural way to make a movie that might honestly be funnier than Welcome to the Jungle. So I can't help but love it, and it has to be in this conversation. Next up, we've got Knives Out, one of the best murder mystery films that I've ever seen, and honestly has to get ranked against these other ones because it's so great. Then I have a couple of sleeper picks that I kind of threw in here as some fun little honorable mentions. First off, we have Shazam, which is the only movie in the DCEU that I actually like. It's a great little movie that does pretty good things for the Shazam character, and I overall just like it. And then we have Spies in Disguise, which is my second favorite Blue Sky movie. It's a fun little movie, and it's kind of a weird way for Blue Sky to go out, but it's overall fine. But when it comes to the overall package of these 5 films, which one wins? It's not Endgame. It's actually Knives Out. Knives Out is one of those movies that I have loved for years, and it is one of my favorite murder mystery films I've ever seen, as it's one where they take your expectations of the film and they flip them on their head to tell such a solid film from beginning to end. One that I, again, could watch every day of the year and never get tired of. So it wins as my favorite movie of 2019. So 2020 is kind of an interesting year, as due to the pandemic, not much released, and the stuff that did release was kind of mid. So we really aren't working with any top tier material for 2020. And I think it's just easier if I just rattle off the honorable mentions and then name what my favorite movie was, because, you're going to know it pretty instantly. First off, we have the Pixar movies that released this year. We have Soul, which is a solid Pixar film that tells such a profound story that's more for the adults than for the kids. So Soul is a solid movie. And then it's followed up by Onward, which is still a movie I love to this day. It's a great little fantasy adventure that I love. And then we also have The New Mutants, which is another good movie, and I will fight you on that point because I love New Mutants. It's a great little horror movie. It's not the greatest film ever, but, it's still solid and a good movie. But the winner for my favorite movie of 2020 is going to go to this film, Palm Springs. It's just a movie that is, I think, what we needed in 2020, telling us a fun little Groundhog Day comedy that is layered with great profound messages, and it's also Andy Samberg, so of course I'm going to love this movie. It's just my favorite movie of 2020, and we're obviously working with not a great pool of things to work with, so honestly, let's just take Palm Springs as the best movie of 2020, or my favorite movie of 2020, and move on, because we're not working with much in 2020, let's be honest, guys. Okay, so 2021 also kind of threw me for a loop because there's so many movies in this year that I loved, and it made it so hard to choose what a favorite one is. Going on some of these lists, we're of course going to talk about some movies. First off, we have Mitchell's versus the Machines. This is one of my favorite movies ever to come out, and again, Lord and Miller, they know what they're doing, and they are capable of making some amazing films, and this is a case of that. Then we have Free Guy, which is another one of my favorite comedies. I just like this movie a lot, and it's just one of those that I could watch every day of the year, maybe every week of the year, and still find amazing. And then we have Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is one of the movies that I wish is how we did legacy sequels, because it's the best legacy sequel, one of my favorite legacy sequels to ever come out, and it just is so good, and it obviously works it out to make great moments. And then I have Tick, Tick, Boom, which is easily my second favorite movie musical behind Greatest Showman. Tick, Tick, Boom is just such a solid movie that I love to death. And it's just a movie that if you've never seen it, I highly recommend it. And then we also have Black Phone, which is my favorite horror movie of all time. Maybe you could consider this not a horror movie, but oh man, I love Black Phone. It's such a great movie, and it's also kind of one of the starting films for Mason Thames, which has grown into a great actor, so great. But unfortunately, this is another year where all of these films are great and probably should be in contention to be my favorite movie of 2021 if Spider-Man No Way Home didn't exist. Spider-Man No Way Home is just such an influential movie for me personally, as Spider-Man is my favorite superhero of all time, and this movie blends all 3 generations of the Spider-Man live-action legacy into a film that is solid. Yes, is it contrived a little bit? Is the story a little bit meh? maybe. But at the end of the day, it's another movie where I could watch it every day, week of the year, and still find it solid. I love Spider-Man No Way Home. And again, this is another year where I wish that all of these are in contention, but I think Spider-Man No Way Home has to be the winner for my favorite movie of 2021. 2022, again, is a year where we're fighting a lot of uphill battles with a lot of really solid movies. Some of the movies that released this year that are options are, of course, we have Glass Onion, A Knives Out Mystery, which is maybe not as good as the first Knives Out, but it's still a solid movie that I do love a lot of. Then we have Top Gun Maverick, which again is the way we should be doing legacy sequels. It takes all the concepts of the original film and creates a really solid new movie that I can't help but really enjoy. Then you have Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, a movie that took the Spider-Verse level of animation and turned it into a solid movie about a mediocre spin-off from Shrek, which is very weird that this is one of the best movies I've seen. Then we have another sleeper pick. We have Sneakerella, which is my favorite DCOM, which is a solid movie that takes the familiar story of Cinderella and sets it in this really new kind of modern way that I can't help but love it. The songs are great, and overall I love Sneakerella, and I will fight you on that point. Then we have The Menu, which is a great movie that is such a movie that you go into not expecting much, and you come out the other side with a solid film that has a great cast that deliver great performances in this solid story. But again, we kind of have the issue where all 5 of these films should be in contention to be my favorite movie of 2022. Unfortunately, The Fabelmans came out that year, and if you don't know me or have not seen my Letterboxd account, The Fabelmans is my favorite movie of all time. So, yeah, the others didn't really stand much of a chance, unfortunately. The Fabelmans is just a movie that I love so heavily, as it's a semi-autobiographical film about the life of Steven Spielberg, and watching this movie was the first time I really stopped to think about why I am a filmmaker, as this film perfectly captures the essence of filmmaking and why people go into that career, and I just found myself loving the film even more. It's a solid movie. That's my favorite movie of all time. So unfortunately, no matter how many other films came out in 2022 that I ended up loving, they really stood no chance. So Fabelmans is going to be my winner for my favorite movie of 2022. 2023 is a year where we kind of died back down and we have a couple smaller picks. First on our list, we have Missing, which is a Screen Life movie that's actually done really well, where it tells this really fun little mystery story, and it's one of the better Screen Life movies I've ever seen, so it definitely is a great movie that I definitely would love from 2023. And then next up, we have Wonka, which is a great little musical film about the prequel to Willy Wonka that I liked. This is one of the films I've seen that I really do enjoy Timothée Chalamet in, and it's great. And then turning to the superhero media this year, we have Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which is one of the greatest films to ever come out, as it's on the level of Into the Spider-Verse, and personally, I actually like it better than Into the Spider-Verse, so I think it's great. And then you have Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, the finale to the Guardians trilogy, and again, one of my favorite MCU films. So we are kind of dealing with another pool of really solid movies. But I think my favorite of this list is going to go to Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse as my winner for my favorite movie of 2023. It's just a movie that I love to death. And even though we still have no idea where the story is going, because this is just part 1 of a two-part story, I still love it. And it's honestly great. I swear, Sony, if you screw up Beyond the Spider-Verse, I'm gonna be so mad, because this movie is great. And Into was probably second place for my favorite movie of 2018, if we're being honest. So there you go. So 2024 is a very interesting year, as we're starting to get into the years where I actually started making movie videos on my channel. And many of you might remember I made a video on my top 10 favorite movies of 2024. So most of you know that some of the honorable mentions I had for that year was Inside Out 2, The Wild Robot, and previously I said Deadpool and Wolverine was my favorite movie of 2024. But conveniently, or I just inconveniently, after I made that video, I watched another movie in preparation for Oscar season, and that movie actually overtook Deadpool and Wolverine as my favorite movie of 2024. So yeah, that video is completely outdated. And the movie I'm of course talking about is gonna be Anora. Oh man, I loved this movie when I first saw it, and I still love it to this day. It's one of the few times where I agree with the Academy about what the best picture of 2024 was, because Anora is something else, man. It is a movie that maybe is not for everybody, but if you're someone who loves this movie, oh man, you love it. Anora is just a great movie from beginning to end, and overtook Deadpool and Wolverine as my favorite movie of 2024. Even though maybe Deadpool and Wolverine might be on par with it, and I might rewatch Deadpool and Wolverine more, I cannot deny that Anora is my favorite movie of 2024. And kind of much in line with what I previously said, I recently just made a video where I ranked all of the films I saw in 2025. So, kind of going through the motions once again, honorable mentions are Fantastic Four: The First Steps, great movie that I had zero issues with. The Gorge, which is a good movie, and I will fight you on that again. Then I have F1. Then it's Frankenstein, and then, of course, Sinners as my winner for my favorite movie of 2025. I get this is kind of anticlimactic because I just made a whole video on this topic, but overall, Sinners is my winner for my favorite movie of 2025, and currently that brings us to the end of every year that I have been alive and my favorite movie from each of them. So I want to thank you guys in joining me on this little birthday celebration, going through some of my favorite movies. And this was a very, very fun video to make, as there's a lot of movies that are in this video that I got to talk about, either being my favorite movies of the year or being the honorable mentions that I talked about. Many of them were movies that I'm not going to get to talk about much in pretty much everywhere else, as they're either movies that are probably never going to end up in any ranking videos going forward, or movies that I'm just not going to talk about unless somehow the movies get sequels and I can talk about the original a little bit, or I make retrospective reviews on them. But overall, that brings us to the end of my favorite movie from all 20 years of my life on this planet. So I want to thank you guys for watching this video, and I want to know, if you feel like taking on the challenge yourself, what is your favorite movie from every year you've been alive? And if that's maybe just a little difficult, just give me what your top 5 favorite films would be, and just give me that. So without further ado, thank you guys all very much for joining me in this little birthday celebration, and I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.